Just let me know which city you're from as well while you enter your name. So we're streaming from Bangalore. Brian, you're streaming from Houston, Texas. So let me know. Okay, Kunle from Nigeria. Let's see, Nilesh from Mumbai. Hi, Nilesh. Sarabjeet, hi. Nice to see you again. Nadia, hi. Naved from Hyderabad. Okay, hi. Praveen from Doha. A lot of you coming in. Okay, I might not be able to call out all the names, but yeah, great to see all of you here. Vivek, hi. Asha from Bangalore as well. Nice to have you, Asha. Shiva from Jaipur. Shamli from Michigan. Nice to have you, Shamli. Let's see, if you are watching us on YouTube, just leave us a hi as well. We're going to get started very, very soon. Okay, Calais from Boston. Okay. Joshua, great. Satyam from Raipur. Nice to have you guys. Someone from Singapore as well. Okay. We've got attendees from across the world today. Shruti from Germany. Oh, okay. Yes, so this session is going to be recorded. Do not worry if you miss anything. You will receive the link to the recording. If you're also a part of our WhatsApp community, I'll send it right away after the session, but do not worry, you will receive it on your email as well tomorrow. Okay. Ghana. Okay, not the WhatsApp number. There's a WhatsApp community. I'll give you the link in a while. Do not worry. Rest assured, be rest assured the session is being recorded and you will receive the link of the recording tomorrow along with a proof of attendance, which is a webinar certificate basically. You will receive that as well. So make sure you stay till the end to understand how you can receive the certificate. Okay. But you know what the agenda is? You are going to understand how you can pass your PMP exam in one attempt. So maybe you guys can let us know, have you already taken the PMP? How many attempts? Or are you looking to take the exam anytime soon? Just let us know on the chat. Just enrolled. Okay, I'm assuming you enrolled in the PMP certification. You want to take it soon? Okay. Okay, want to take, all right. Appearing in March. Okay, PMP course. You'll complete training. You want to take the, okay. A lot of you want to take the exam. Exam scheduled on 8th of Feb. Okay. Coming up really soon. Williams says, okay, plans to take soon. Great. Let's see. Audience on YouTube, what you guys have to say. Okay. Yeah, just let us know what your plan is. Are you planning to take the exam anytime soon? Okay. Jabir says he wants to take first week of March. All right. So you've got about a month to a couple of months. In the next 3 months. Okay. Amazing. So that also gives Brian some insight on who the learners are. Let's see. Let's also understand what your work experience has been. So I'm just going to launch a quick poll, which will help us understand what your profile is as well. So people on Zoom, again, let us know how many years of experience you have. And this is not limited to just project management experience, can be overall work experience here. Yeah. Oh, someone is taking the exam on the 25th. Okay, Vishwanath, all the best to you. All right. Next 3 months. Okay, great, Shahid. Nice to see that you're working as an infrastructure consultant. Just let us know your overall work experience. This month, okay, we have got 10 days left in the month. So I'm guessing anytime the next 10 days. Okay. Right. Okay, I think we'll just end the poll here. I think the results are pretty clear. A lot of them have more than 10 years of experience, and then I'm assuming you want to use the PMP certification, leverage it for better opportunities. Whatever your reason is, so your the agenda for today is to kind of help you prepare better for the exam here. And let me just quickly introduce Brian to you first before I introduce Simplilearn. So Brian is an experienced agile coach. He's also an agile program and project manager. He's got expertise in project management and agile, project management. He's got immense experience there. He's also a certified PMI trainer, a safe practitioner. He's also PMI ACP certified, and he mentors and coaches various different professionals like you. So he's also the contributing author to the PMBOK. Glad to have you, Brian, once again. It's great to have you in these sessions always.
Yeah.
I'll just let you introduce yourself and, we'll continue with the
I
session.
don't know how I can add more to what you just said. It sounded so glowing. Yeah, so I guess the
Sounded,
real
no. Yeah.
I guess the real kind of backstory, origin story for me is started project management over 25 years ago. This is something very near and dear to my heart and my career. So I spend a lot of time in this domain. As you can tell, I've got a lot of certifications. I do a lot of training. I contribute a lot to some of the bodies of thought, write books on these topics, and have worked a lot with people just like those in the call today who want to get their PMP, want to help progress their career. And this is a great way to do that. So excited to spend some time on that. One of the things Parna and I always do, we encourage people to ask questions. I'm sure she's going to go into the mechanics of how to do that, but the more questions you ask, generally the more engaging the session is.
Exactly. So if you've got questions, remember you use the Q&A box and we'll make sure that your questions are answered. One just quick request, make sure if you've posted the question already, please do not post it once again. And I'm also going to keep these questions public. So you will be able to see, all the questions that have been asked, right? Anyway, so just quick insight about Simplilearn. Simplilearn offers skills in various domains, and we've got certifications in project management, in Agile and Scrum as well, and also certifications in the other domains that you see here. So if you're looking for upskilling in the tech or the project management or data domains, Simplilearn is the right place for you. So you can head to simplilearn.com and check out these courses. Will also help you understand the enrollment steps into the PMP certification course towards the end. But I think Brian will just quickly get started with the agenda of the session, and you could take them through the advantage of PMP certification
Sure.
first.
Yeah, absolutely. Great place to start. Sounds like a lot of the folks on today's call already aware of the advantages of taking a PMP certification. But a couple things it really highlights. One is shows that you have a credible understanding of what's involved in managing large, complex projects, and
Mm.
that you can demonstrate the leadership that these projects often need. And as a result, it does open the door to those higher paying opportunities and because the PMP is a globally recognized certification, it really actually helps you if you want to move to a different organization, even around the world. They're all going to recognize the PMP in the same way. Now, another part of this that, at least just from my own experience, my own journey, one of the things I discovered, now this was, gosh, a long, long time ago, Earth was still cooling kind of time frame. Um, Project management wasn't as well understood as it is today. So in my case, for example, I started managing projects simply because there was a need to manage IT projects. So I happened to be an IT person. I had an MBA, and they said, oh, well, surely you can figure all this out. And at the time, it was mostly using a lot of pragmatic common sense. And increasingly, there's this awareness that we can leverage very structured, well-established processes that really help us manage some of the things that projects in particular need to manage towards. What are those? Well, the classic questions you will get asked as a project management is how much is it going to cost and when will it be done? So these processes really help you answer those questions. So really important if you want to stay in this domain of managing projects. The PMP is going to be a great tool, great framework to reference. And then lately too, it's really beginning to absorb and leverage some of these more agile practices. So I think that's made it, frankly, from my perspective, a lot more interesting and compelling because it puts a big emphasis on people. And people are often such an important part of our ability to successfully deliver projects. So yeah, some big advantages there. So I'm glad so many people are already making that investment in the PMP and their career.
Got it. All right. All right. Yeah. How do they build on strengths, overcome challenges?
Yeah. Yep, these are all really, really helpful, starting points on how do you successfully pass that PMP. So one of the first things is just recognize, yeah, you're going to bring in a fair amount of your own experience. So everyone on this call has some experience, some over 10 years of experience. Now, that's going to be really valuable because just by virtue of having worked for a while, you're going to have a better sense of where are your strengths, how can you lean into those, and that's going to help you on the exam. We're going to talk a little bit about that shortly. So look at that. Now, one modest caution though is be aware that the certification exam is going to reference the PMI framework. In other words, you might work in an organization where a project gets started with maybe some project initiation document or a business requirements document or a business case. All those are very valid terms to use to kind of initiate projects, but the terms that the PMI are going to be looking for are the project charter. Okay, so just be aware, even with your experience, you're going to have to kind of at times make those connections between maybe terms that you're using in your organization or you've seen and what the PMI is looking for. So don't lose sight of the fact that even though you've got lots of great real world experience, and for the record, you cannot take the PMP without demonstrating that you have, if you've got a university degree, at least 3 years of project management experience. So it's good to have that experience. You need that experience. Just be aware that you have to remember the PMI terms for some of the things you're doing.
Wow.
Other things that, I think you highlighted here too, Aparna, is time management. For most of the folks that are taking this exam, they are also working, and many of them have families and other responsibilities. So balancing how you take the time to focus on preparation is going to be important. One of the things hopefully you've been learning as you've got your PMP training is, hey, I can build a schedule, and that schedule should kind of carve out some times where I can focus on preparing for the exam, break that into small, manageable daily goals. I think that's very important. Mastering the PMI framework, this is another really important part of this. We're going to look at that a little more in depth shortly, but just really getting comfortable with the way the whole framework is developed will really assist you when it comes time to taking the exam. And then one thing that PMI in particular has been emphasizing is these real world scenarios. So what you're really going to hopefully see a lot of, and I've written a number of exam questions for the PMP over time, is they should be kind of an example. Here's a situation. What types of techniques or processes would you leverage as a project manager to solve these real world scenarios? So great opportunity again to apply your experience, your expertise, and that's really going to help you take this exam.
Got it. So just questions that are coming up on the chat. You could put them on the Q&A box. All right. So Brian, just a quick thing that some learner is bothered about. So let's say someone takes their training and someone has failed their exam thrice. So why do you think that happens, or what could they do to address?
Yeah. Well, I mean, could be lots of different reasons that can occur. And first off, if that has happened to anyone on this call, don't be discouraged. In fact,
Mm,
a number of people aren't successful taking their PMP on their first attempt. So that is not uncommon.
mm,
And one way to kind of look at that is, hey, what did I learn from that? What can I do better? And usually, in fact, always when you complete the exam, you're going to get feedback in which sections of the different process groups you did well in. And I think, right, it generally won't give you a percentage that you got like 56% right or 62% right, but will tell you whether or not you were, acceptable or below the threshold necessary. But that will at least give you some idea of where you need to focus your attention when you come back to start, preparing for the next exam that you want to take. So not uncommon. Now, why does this happen? Well, oftentimes I find, here's a good example. So The new structure of the PMBOK 7 and the new exam focuses on these three domains: people, process, and business environment. So
Ah.
as you tell immediately, heavy emphasis on people and process. And that makes sense because that's often what determines a project success. So make sure you're spending most of your time in those two sections of the PMBOK, getting really comfortable, familiar with what those represent. So in the people domain, it's about how do you pull together a team? How do you help the team kind of develop and grow, ensure that they're aligned to project goals and outcomes? Processes are those things that the team is going to follow. They include how are you going to manage risks? How are you going to deal with issues? How are you going to manage your budget, your schedule? What's your human resource management? What's your overall resource management processes look like? And the business environment gets a little deeper into, okay, well, what are sort of the processes our organization wants us to use? What are some of the things that are a little outside of our control? If you're doing a very large project, for example, you might have some project externalities like political climate. I live in the US, and we had a recent leadership change in our presidential administration. And companies have to think about that. Now, as a project manager, there's nothing you can do about it, but you can anticipate maybe some changes, and that's what the business environment area looks like. So that domain doesn't get as much attention. So really make sure you're focusing on people process. If you haven't been successful on the exam so far, it's possible that maybe you put too much emphasis on business environment, not enough
Mhm.
attention on people and process.
Yeah, that could be a possible reason. Yeah.
Now, this one is a bit of an eye chart, but, and two parts about this. The first is, yes, there's a lot of detail here. But what it does is it gives you a nice one-page synopsis of everything that is in the PMI framework. The other part of this, which is perhaps a little unusual, is this was something that was part of the PMBOK 6th edition. But in the 7th edition, they've moved this out of that PMBOK, the body of knowledge, into their supporting website. So you have to dig a little bit to find this. But why this is helpful is it gives you some view of here are these process groups.
Mhm.
Okay, so you want to make sure you're very comfortable with the process groups because literally every question is going to center on one of these five groups. So we've got initiating, this is what gets a project started, planning. Now that I've got the project sort of approved, I get that charter. Let's start thinking about how I'm going to plan for the project. So how I'm going to ensure that I, know how I want to manage this, how I'm going to capture requirements and develop a schedule and develop and create a budget and manage quality and risks and all the things that come into ensuring I can execute the project as I move into that executing process group. And notice an executing process group, there's not as many little bullets there. That's because you should have given a lot of thought to that in the planning. Then as you're moving into the monitoring and controlling process group, this is us just getting our arms around how is the project working, think of status reports, things like that. And when you're all said and done, you close the project out. You kind of tie everything out, let our, the people that perhaps are contracted and any open purchase orders, get those close out budgets, things like that. So those five process groups, if you do not have those memorized, you probably should if you're preparing to take the exam. On the left-hand side, you see these knowledge areas. And these are just sort of groupings of work items, activities that are very important to successful project delivery. And if you look at them, you'll immediately recognize, hey, oh, yeah, these make sense, right? I have some integration management. That's really what a project manager does, make sure everyone's working effectively together. Then the other one's probably going to feel hopefully pretty intuitive, things like scope management. If I add too much scope in, it's going to be hard for me to deliver my project to the schedule and budget that we establish. Schedule management. People are always going to ask, when is your project going to be done? So you have to give some thought to how I'm going to manage schedule. We've got cost management. So this is your budget. So how am I managing to my budget? What's my forecast of what this cost of the project will be? A very common question that often comes up. Quality, because the amount of quality we have in a project can really influence its success and its costs and schedule. Resource management, which is not just people, but assets, things like that. If you've got a large project, you might need to bring in, heavy equipment, things along those lines. We've got communication, how am I going to communicate to my stakeholders? How am I going to manage risks? And then procurement. If the project needs to buy things, how I'm going to manage that. So those knowledge areas are all elements of every single project. So whether you're managing a very small project, might be just, a couple people over a few months, they're still going to be important. A very, very large project over many years, perhaps even spending billions of dollars, these become even more important. So get comfortable with this framework. If you're preparing to take the exam, as some of you are, you should kind of test yourself, look at this. And in each one of those little cells, those are the actual processes that you're going to follow to complete those activities. And a term that you often hear is ITTO. And if you haven't kind of come across that, that means inputs, tools and techniques, outputs. So each process starts with an input, right? Something that triggers it and says, yeah, I need to perform these activities, and it produces an output. There's some reason we're performing these activities. We want to create something. So make sure you understand what the input and the output is. And then the tools and techniques are how you're going to do it. And sometimes it could just be, hey, we're having a meeting to have a conversation. Other times I might have a tool that I need to use, maybe our project management scheduling tool. So just getting comfortable with some of those terms can really help you ensure you complete the exam successfully.
Got it. So how can someone, enhance their preparation for the exam?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question. We've got hopefully some good pointers here. What is this idea of a strategic mindset? Okay, think of the exam as a project, and that you need to prepare for that project. So some of you already have a date, an out date that you're going to focus on. So if you got that date, work yourself backward, just like many of us will work with a project. And then think about what you need to go into that. So some of this will be just sitting down, building out your plan, right? That's our planning activity. Then once we've got a good plan, we start executing. And the executing should tell us things like how much time I'm going to allocate per day to study, and what parts of the PMBOK and other reference material do I want to spend some time on. And you should give some self-assessment to yourself and ask, hey, what are areas that I feel like I'm stronger in? If I feel strong and confident, then maybe I don't spend as much time in those areas. Areas I'm a little less confident about, that's where I spend most of my time. And then just be disciplined. Maybe have a weekly status report, check in with yourself, hold yourself accountable. Sometimes it's helpful to have someone else to act as a bit of an accountability partner. If you're married, you got a partner, say, hey, check in with me. I want to hold myself accountable. I'd really appreciate your help. A friend, maybe you've got someone, a peer, who's also going to take the PMP. That's a great opportunity to kind of work together, check in with yourselves, use it as a place to kind of bounce ideas off, ask questions.
Right. Got it.
Yeah, so outside of that, when you start taking the exam, one way to think about how do I take this large, complex exam? It's 4 hours long. I've got so much time per question. Rather, just develop a rhythm that plays your strength. Areas you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable with, just knock those out as quickly as you can. And then flag parts of the questions or questions on the exam that you want to come back to. So one of the things you're all going to be doing is you'll be taking, well, I can't say every single person will be doing this, because there are some opportunities to take this as a handwritten exam if you still want to. But generally, most of you will be taking it online. As you take it online, each question, there'll be a little marker that you can use to flag it. And that will help you if you want to go back later and either check that question, or maybe you're not ready to answer it. You want to hold it and skip to the next question. So flag questions, if you're not comfortable answering right now, and I know most of you are probably going to feel a little discomfort when it comes to any of the more quantitative questions on the exam. That's frequently the area that we spend the most time on in the classes that I teach, at least. So
Right.
just flag those, come back to them.
Mhm.
And then when you do, use it as a place to validate your thought process. And it's not uncommon to say, hey, this is a multiple choice question. There are 4 answers. It could be A or it could be C. I don't know which one. I'm going to come back to that later, because sometimes as you're answering other questions, you might uncover the answer to that question that you weren't so certain about. So take the time to do that. Also, for ambiguous questions, don't lose sight of the principles. Remember, some of these questions are designed in a way to kind of really test your knowledge of the framework of the PMI principles. For example, prioritizing stakeholder satisfaction. That's the end game for successfully delivering a project, because who wants to deliver a project that none of your stakeholders are happy with? So that's one principle. Incremental delivery is another one, that we want to find ways in which we can unlock value early in short increments. It's kind of an agile thought. And then also, this happened to me once, by the way. My very first question was on the number of communication channels, and many of you are probably taking that and saying, "Oh, I know that form," and divide n minus one divided by and I, for the life of me, I just got stuck on that first question. I must have spent 5 minutes on it, and that was just eating up valuable time. So, and I was telling myself, Brian, you just got to move on. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I know this. So be careful about that.
Yeah.
Avoid the analysis paralysis. Just recognize, hey, I'm going to come back to this. I got lots of time. You should have plenty of time to answer all the questions. So don't get yourself anxious and feel like, oh, I got to hurry, hurry, hurry. No, you just take the
Yeah.
time you need and just be thoughtful. If you get stuck on something, flag it, move on to the next one.
Yeah. It's easy to get overwhelmed with all the questions that, I mean, the number of
Yes.
questions that we have to answer. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And what do we have here? We've got the
Preparation as such
Oh,
and
preference. Yes.
how
Okay.
to
Yes.
narrow down.
Okay. Yes. 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 So this is really important too. So for many of you, particularly if you've been in the workforce for 10 years, it's been a while, I'm assuming, since you've been in an educational setting. And this is a pretty long exam. So 4 hours, that's a long time for most of us, particularly these days, when we think of, all the little distractions we have in our little social media, devices and products selling us, hey, here's 30 seconds of some funny little skit. So 4 hours, you're actually going to probably have to prep a little bit for this. So take the time to really sit yourself down and use practice exams as a way to condition yourself to take the real thing. So always look for ways in which you can get an end-to-end real world practice exam. I know Simplilearn puts a lot of emphasis on this. They give you a number of good, solid practice exams. These are practice exams that very much mirror the real thing. Time yourself, remove distractions, because that's what's going to be expected to take this exam. Get yourself accustomed. It's kind of like if you want to run a 5K or 10K race, you're going to have to start by just running around the block a few times and kind of work your way up there. So definitely take the time to do that. A good target. I know some of you have PMP dates you've already established. Make sure you've taken at least 3 full-length practice exams prior to taking the real thing. Okay, hold yourself accountable to that. That will make a big difference in your success. Another thing to think about too is strategies on how to answer questions. Presumably some of you have already given a little thought to this or had this experience, but for example, if there's a multiple choice, you've got one question, there'll be 4 answers. Look for answers you can quickly eliminate. Get those out of the way so you can really focus on the questions that are important. The other thing I can absolutely assure you, this has happened to me a few times, take the time to read the question end to end. Okay, because oftentimes the meaning of that answer can change, the question and the answer can change with just 1 or 2 words, often at the end of the sentence. In fact, when I used to teach this course many times, I would have some practice questions up there that would intentionally see if people were reading the whole thing to make sure they got the right answer. So just be, take your time. You got plenty of time. Read it thoroughly. Sometimes you can have, they don't tend to put really long questions on the exam because they're aware that for many people that can feel a little anxiety producing. But if there's a couple sentences there, just take the time to read it thoroughly. Maybe underline a few things that are important in the question, and then turn to those answers.
Got it. Got it. Got it. What do we do on the exam day? We're bound to be nervous.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. So a couple things we can do to help ourselves with that, and I remember, just to draw on a story, when I got my MBA has another very demanding exam called the GMAT, the Graduate
Yeah.
Management Admission Test. And now this is back in the day when you actually had to physically go to the place to take your exam. So I went there. I went there to kind of get my bearings and just kind of mentally prepare myself. This is where I'm going to be sitting. That exam was close to 6 hours, I think, and get comfortable just in the environment that I'm going to be in. So similarly, prep yourself a little bit. Think about that. If you're going to take the exam online, which I think is available for many people now, get your room organized, remove some of the distractions. If you've got something that might motivate you, inspire you, maybe put that up. And then when you get to the exam, stay calm. And for many of us, you can maybe practice some breathing exercises. Sometimes if
Yeah.
some meditation could be very helpful here. Whatever it is that's going to help you. Even a beverage to kind of get you ready. If you like a cup of chai tea or coffee or something, just get that ready so you're ready for the moment. Um, when you're reading questions, it's, they're not intentionally trying to make these questions difficult to answer, but you are expected to be able to read these in a way that you can understand what is the best solution, what is the thing you should do next, what's most appropriate. And when you see those terms, even most appropriate, that's usually a signal that means you're going to have two answers that are going to be pretty close to one another.
Yeah.
So now you're going to draw upon those PMI principles and really ask yourself which of these support the principles most effectively. Um, yeah, so you're going to get some breaks. So use that to kind of decompress, get relaxed again, get yourself back into the mode. And then, as I mentioned earlier, avoid overthinking, avoid that analysis paralysis. Just pick an answer, feel good about it. If you need to flag it, you can come back to, and when you're finished the exam, just do a quick run through of everything, clear out all the flags that you had, and then you feel really confident. Now, the one other thing, just bring to your attention too, and I do believe on the online question, they will not, if you are going to submit your answers without everything answered, it will notify you, but there is no penalty for a wrong answer. So even if you have a question that you're just completely unsure of, well, frankly, just guess, do your best educated guess, pick an answer. There's no penalty for not answering.
Got it. Got it. Got it. All right. So I think that really summarizes what you should do on your exam day and also how your preparation should be. So I guess those questions have been answered. So I think just to quickly summarize what Brian said, I think the key is to make sure you are familiar with the PMI framework, and then you kind of preparing, aligning yourself towards that, and then automatically things will fall into place on the exam day. And of course, all the other tips that you just received, right? So a lot of you said that your exam is coming up in the next 1 month, couple of months, 3 months, whatever your reason is. So just let us know what is exactly your blocker, or what is exactly stopping you from becoming PMP certified. Is it the course that's a problem, or you sometimes feel that your work schedule does not allow you to find or upskill? Whatever your reason is, just let us know through this particular poll. And also, people on YouTube, if you guys have questions, we'd love to take them as well. So make sure you're putting in your questions. We've already got questions from the audience here. Is it possible to increase the volume? Harish, I think he was perfectly audible. If there were portions where you found his voice, I mean, I think you were fine, Brian. I think it was just uh, Harish who felt that. So maybe Harish, you could take a look at the recording. Can we have a link to the practice tests? Rahul, yes. Yes, I'm going to share that as well. So if you head to the resources page on simplilearn.com, you're going to be able to access these free practice tests. But I'll do that in a while, while we're answering questions. Okay, any more questions, please put them on the Q&A box. We're just about to get started. And also, if you guys are interested in taking up the PMP certification, we'll talk about it in a while, but if you're really interested and you already know how the certification training goes, I'm just going to launch another very quick poll asking you your interest, and then we'll also quickly explain, what the program entails. So I'm just going to launch this, and yeah, a lot of questions on the chat first. Someone says, okay, Srivatsa asks, what are the core areas to prepare for the exam? I think you answered this, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, the
Right. Yeah.
4 areas to prepare. Is that what?
Prepare for the exam.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to find the question. Oh, core
Core
areas. Got
areas.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, core
Yeah.
areas. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, this is a great opportunity. You have to kind of display this. So, let me check in with the group here. So you saw that there were 5 process groups here.
Yes.
So
You want
you
me to switch?
folks, yeah, so just pop those in the chat. Anyone want to be bold and kind of list what those 5 primary process groups are?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I'm going to change the slide. Let's see if we remember this
Oh,
from the
yeah, yeah.
session.
That's, all keys
Those
in
are
here.
your
See?
core areas. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, a lot of people saying they're enrolled. Okay, well, so if you're a little unfamiliar with that, this would be a good area to spend a little time on. So all projects are going to go through kind of a life cycle. And that it starts with initiating. Okay, this gets a project started, and someone asks the question, what's this project charter you mentioned? Well, project charter is sort of the official document that tells us that we can start this project because we don't
Yeah.
want to start a project until the organization is prepared to make the commitment to it because it's going to cost money, it's going to take time and resources. So I want to make sure the organization is going into this in alignment. And the second thing is there's lots of different projects organizations can choose to pursue. So before we start any one of them, we want to make sure there's agreement that this is the right one to start. So the project charter is an important output from that initiating phase. Now, once we've got that in, kind of starter's gun has been fired, it's okay to proceed, let's start this project. The next thing we want to do is do some planning. So that's the next big process group. And planning just means we're going to give some thought to how we're going to organize and deliver this project because all projects could be a little bit different. You might be working in the construction industry, and if that's the case, there's a very sort of predictable and structured way in which you often need to build a larger commercial structure. If you're in the software domain, you might say, well, I got some different options available to me. I can choose to use some of these agile practices. So planning is our opportunity to really think about how do we want to organize ourselves? What people do we need? What additional assets do we need? How are we going to deal with things like if you got a large, complex international project, you might need to give some thought to, well, how am I going to report on my budget? What currency am I going to use? It could
Mm.
be American, US dollars, it could be European, it could be rupees, it could be lots of different options there. What exchange rates am I going to use? So all those questions come up in planning. We want to get those answered before we start the project. The next phase, process group, is called executing. And just like the name suggests, this is when we start executing the project, doing the work. So all that planning is now going to pay off when we do the work. And as we perform the work, we want to monitor and control the project. What does that mean? We're just checking in. Are we progressing the way we expected from our plans? If we've got deviations, what can we do to kind of correct those? Are we tracking to the critical path of the project? Critical path is the path that tells if any delay in any of the work along the critical path will delay our project delivery date. So we want to really carefully protect that critical path and just monitor and report on our progress. And then finally, when the project is all said and done, we have our closing process group, and that's where we sort of tie out our purchase orders and release people
Got it.
back to their functional areas. So those are 5, important areas. So start with that. If that's unfamiliar to you and you got the exam
Mm.
coming up, you want to spend a little time just strengthening your knowledge in that space in particular.
Yeah. Got it. Uh, so what is a quick revision tip or PMP mindset you suggest one should have? I have my exam in approximately 20 days. What should be something I should take care of? Uh, I mean, before a week of the exam, what should someone really focus on? Shruti has this question, I think. Neil Patil also had the same question, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so when we think about these principles, these
Mm.
mindsets, so some of this is all within the PMBOK itself. So take the time to read the front part of the PMBOK because that's kind of where it establishes the principles. But some things are going to probably, hopefully, feel a little bit intuitive. Why do we deliver projects? Well, it's to unlock value. There's a reason behind that. Now, sometimes that value is really obvious. It's going to increase more revenue, or it could reduce costs and make our organization more efficient. Other times, It's because it's like maybe a social good. You're in the government and you maybe want to reduce childhood obesity rates. Okay, so you're introducing a project that's going to provide more education and maybe tools to help people manage childhood dietary needs. So that's an outcome. How would you measure success there? Well, you're seeing a reduction in childhood obesity. So there's lots of different ways in which projects can be organized so they can deliver outcomes. One of the principles the PMI is going to emphasize is that you need to understand the why behind your project. Why are you doing this? Because if you don't understand that, you're not going to be able to successfully deliver against its expectations. So that's one example of a principle. The other we heard earlier is who is the person, the customer for our work. Those are our stakeholders. So make sure you got a good understanding who your stakeholders are. There can be lots and lots of different stakeholders in a project. So stakeholder management becomes very important, and you're going to leverage that not only to gather requirements from those stakeholders, because they're the ones that want the project completed, but also how do we want to communicate to those stakeholders? And there's different types of communication people often prefer. Some people like it, a short text maybe on their phone. Others want something a little more in depth. So you get a little thought as a project manager, how are we going to communicate to those different stakeholder groups?
Got it. So Martin has a question. Do we consider PFMEA, DFMEA at the risk management stage? I mean, he's asking if that's what we do at the risk management stage.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I would have to confess, I'm not super familiar with those acronyms. I might need them to kind of.
It's something a failure analysis, basically. So process and
Okay, yeah,
design.
process failure mode and effects
Yeah.
analysis. Yes. Yeah, for sure. Now so a couple things about that. First is the PMP is not going to expect you to be, deeply familiar with some of those particular techniques, but just as you're highlighting here, you're going to need to have familiarity with what those practices look like. So you'll absolutely come across things like cause and effect diagrams, and you'll do some risk management trade-off analysis. So there will be an expectation you're familiar with that. Now, if you want to go deeper into those spaces, there's actually other certifications you can consider that would be good candidates for that particular risk management certification. But yes, absolutely, that familiarity is going to be very valuable. Generally speaking, the exam is not going to put a lot of heavy emphasis on quantitative mathematical calculations. Okay, it's going to expect some rudimentary skills that you can calculate, your forecast variance and schedule and budget variance. But generally speaking, you're not going to go super deep into that because there's no real expectation. You've got like Microsoft Excel available that you can kind of, work out, really detailed calculations.
Got it. So is there a pass mark or something that someone needs to get for this, for the exam?
Yeah, that's a great question. Often comes up. So first off, the PMI does not share any pass threshold. So there's no, you must get 65% if you're taking the ITIL certifications, or I think 80% if you're getting your SAFE certification. So some of those other organizations provide that threshold. The PMI just says, no, we don't tell you that. But we will tell you whether or not you're within the threshold that we expect for that particular category and overall. Generally speaking, my guidance would be think of 80% as your target. You want to get 80% on each one of the sections to ensure you're going to pass the exam. Now, I can't tell you that definitively, but 80% is a pretty reasonable target.
Right, got it. All right. So we've got another question that says, oh, someone is asking if you do take classes in Simplilearn, how to join. Okay, so Brian, maybe you could throw some light here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I often deliver live classes. In fact, if you take some of the classes, it might have been a while, but you'll hear my recordings and my voice and teaching the online versions of these, the recorded versions. But yeah, definitely check out who's coming. But one thing I can share with you, Simplilearn is fantastic at getting really, really strong instructors who just enjoy teaching. So you get a lot of their, passion and excitement for what it is that they're doing. Hopefully, you're picking up some of that for me. So you think you'll be well served by the folks that Simplilearn already has if you can't see a class that I'm delivering.
Nice, great. Okay, is there, I mean, I'm not sure of sources from Simplilearn though, but Brian, you could tell us, can we get a course that has audiobooks for preparation for the PMP exam?
Well, there definitely are audiobooks available. Trying to think
Hmm.
of, there's a big name, Kathy Schwartz, I think. In any event, there are some, really good prep books that are available on the market. But one thing I'm going to share with you is that all the Simplilearn courses have some Audible component to them, so you can absolutely listen to these if you're commuting on the train or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So that definitely encourage you to look for that. And yeah, great way to kind of get yourself, in the background thinking about some of these concepts and get ready for the exam.
Right. Got it. Got it. Someone has a question. Any tips for questions on types of contracts? Here, it's always the case that get stuck in two options. Between two options, one looks good. Which one to choose? Okay.
Yeah, it might be helpful to kind of see the questions that you might want to spend some time on. But yeah, in terms of types of contracts, again, go back to your PMBOK and look at the different types of contracts. If it's fixed price, cost plus, there are different models that are going to be used. Think a little bit about the settings and why you would want to use one over the other. Okay, fixed price is helpful if you absolutely want to keep your budget within a certain range.
Mm,
So
mm,
you outsource that maybe to some other delivery partner. They have a fixed price. That's as much money as they can spend on that project. So that's useful in those settings. Um, Now recognize if they're going to fix price it, they have to put a little bit of buffer in there, a little contingency, because they're assuming the risk. Say things do take longer than expected, cost more than anticipated. So they're always going to put a little of that buffer in there. Each organization is going to be a little bit different, but generally you can expect fixed price contracts are going to be more expensive. Now let's pretend, for example, you're building, I don't know, a dam. Okay, dam needs a lot of concrete. Okay, and you know, you don't have concrete. You have to use a company that's going to provide you the concrete. But most of the cost of that is just going to be the cost of the concrete. So you don't want to pay a fixed price for that. You just want to pay what the cost of the concrete is going to be. And in fact, maybe you're kind of looking at your big dam and you're saying, gosh, it's going to take us, a year and a half to build this thing. And the way the price of concrete is going down. So why would we want to lock in to the higher price now? We want to get the benefits of those lower prices in the future. So that generally is a place for a cost plus model. We'll pay the cost of these concrete plus any additional, labor and other charges that might need to be incurred to get that concrete poured into a dam.
got it. Got it. Got it. Let's see. We have more questions. Does someone have to really do the PMBOK after enrolling into a training course? Is that mandatory?
Well, if you've got a good course, you're right. The need to go deep into the PMBOK and the practice guides that are available is probably less. But I don't think I could guide you to just not read the PMBOK at all. In fact, I think that after you're taking the course is the best time to start looking into the PMBOK, going deep into it, getting really comfortable with all the topics to discuss. So yes, I would say you really must look at the PMBOK.
Right. I think a couple of questions came on the fact that they take a lot of mocks, but then they make mistakes. Someone took the training but still couldn't clear the exam. What is wrong with their learning method? I know you answered this in the beginning of the session, but maybe just to reinforce that for these two learners.
Yeah. Well, that's again not
Hmm.
uncommon to not be
Hmm.
successful first pass. So the things I would encourage you to do is take those practice exams. Again, one of the things that Simplilearn is going to offer is not only can you take the practice exam, there's a timer, but more importantly, when you finish the exam, it's going to give you feedback on the areas that you could have done better in, and use that to really focus your study efforts. So be thoughtful about like sort of where do I want to put my energy into studying here. Make sure you understand where some of those maybe weak spots are, so you can really ensure you're focusing your studying. Again, it could have been too like maybe you we're got some exam anxiety. That does happen. It's a real thing. So give a little thought to how can you get yourself to a better mindset when you take the exam.
Got it. All right. think we've got just a couple of more questions. Does someone have to submit a portfolio? I'm not sure. I think you'll have to display your work experience, but Brian, maybe if you can just highlight if a portfolio is required.
Yeah, well, when you submit your application to the PMI, you're going to have to demonstrate that you have this experience that is necessary to take the PMP. And in that, they're going to ask you to itemize each one of your projects that you were part of, what you did on the projects. So a few things in that regard. One is, you know, make sure you spend a little time thinking about what your projects are. But more importantly, when you write your description of what you're doing, try and use some of the terminology that the PMI uses. So maybe you
Right.
created a, like I said, a business requirements document to initiate the project. Well, that's called a project charter. So you might want to consider using that language so it's easier for the reviewers to kind of understand how your background is applicable to the project management domain. The other thing, this is actually very important too, is they will periodically audit your
Mhm.
submissions. And if that happens, this has happened to me. If you get your program management certificate, that's quite a demanding one. They automatically audit you, and that means they are going to reach out to the people that you worked with and ask them
Mhm.
to validate exactly what you submitted.
Wow.
So be careful. Make sure you're thoughtful about this. Check in with the people that are going to provide potentially that confirmation. And yes, you will need to submit a portfolio. Now, you just write it up. You don't have to show examples and anything like that and sort of that sense of a portfolio, but you will need to describe your work experience.
Got it. All right, all right. Okay, let me just quickly throw some light on the certification training in case someone has already taken this training. Then I don't think this is relevant, but you could just use all the strategies that we taught today, and then hopefully, you'll be able to pass your PMP exams. This PMP certification training gives you 35 PDUs. Now, Brian, for people who are not familiar, could you just highlight what a PDU is and how that's useful? And maybe also, for renewal, I guess the PDUs are necessary as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is, a little bit unique to the project management space.
Yeah.
So the PDU stands for Project Development Unit, okay, a PDU. And
Mhm.
really what it means is that when you get your PMP, you take that difficult exam, you successfully pass it, and you've been awarded your PMP, then you have to maintain it. So every 3 years, you are expected to um, capture these PDUs and actually submit them to the PMI so they can continue to renew and maintain your certification. And if you do not do that, you will get to rewrite the exam, which no one's going to want to be interested in doing. So do take time to do that. So you'll be looking for sessions just like this that give you some PDUs just by attending. Other ways you can earn PDUs is by giving back. You could, write a blog post. You can
Oh,
work within your organization, do a lunch and learn on some topics. So there's lots of different ways to capture these PDOs. You can continue to invest in yourself. You can take a course or two. PMI has lots and lots of easily accessible courses on their website that you can take, which will not only further your awareness and knowledge on some important topics like AI and machine learning, but give you PDUs as well.
right. Got it. Got it. So I think that answers the question, or maybe if you understood what PDU is, this is necessary for you to also, I mean, the PDUs will help you in the future to also renew it, and also you have something known as contact hours, which I guess are important for appearing for the exam, if I'm wrong,
Right.
if I'm right, right? So
Exactly. Right.
Brian,
Mhm.
how is exactly the training, I mean, any training, not just from Simplilearn. So how is certification training going to help them uh register and kind of take the exam? If you can also highlight that.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So one of the things that PMI does require is that you actually kind of attend a course like this. You get some training, so you understand the ideas and concepts that the exam is going to cover. Most of the organizations that first off are certified PMI instructors, just like Simplilearn, are going to package up their training to kind of satisfy that requirement. So it's a good place to begin. Simplilearn is a fantastic organization to begin that journey with, but there's others out there too that are quite strong. So start with that. Then once you've got the training in place is when you then do your application. We just talked about the application process. You're gonna have to demonstrate the work you performed. It could potentially be audited. Once they've received that, then you got to pay your certification exam sitting fee and then schedule that exam. These days, this is all done online. When I did it, you actually physically had to go to a place to take your exam. And then once you've completed the exam, you'll immediately get your results. They'll tell you right then and there
Yeah.
whether or not you were successful.
Right. Got it. Got it. I think we're getting some questions that we've already taken about pass marks, about what we can do if you didn't really pass the test. So that was already covered, I guess. We also answered questions on the 35 hours of lectures. You understood that, this is useful for you to actually register and go ahead and take the exam, right? So we're not going to take those questions right now. Let me see. So someone is a business analyst, so they've managed projects, but have done that ad hoc. I mean, as and when they come. Is that acceptable as work experience while registering for the PMP exam?
Yeah, it definitely is. And PMI is
Mhm.
aware that not all the work you're performing a project is going to be categorized maybe in your organization as a project. But again, as long as you can point to the things that you are doing. So as a business analyst, maybe you're gathering a lot of those requirements. Hey, that's absolutely an important part of successful project delivery. Maybe you're doing some testing and validation. Again, that's part of quality management. You had schedules you probably both had to develop and adhere to. So just highlight, what that work was. It's not asking that you were the project manager, just asking that you were working in a project. So, get a little bit creative. They're gonna be okay with that. They're just mostly ensuring that the people taking the exam, frankly, it's not going to waste their time, and that the people that do get that certification actually have some of the experience that's expected.
Got it. All right, all right. So before we take a couple of last two questions, let me just help you understand what our certification course contains. So maybe Brian, I know you highlighted the different process groups and also the different phases of a project. So I mean, I think the curriculum is self-explanatory, but I mean, just a quick brief would help them understand how this helps.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so you saw that sort of those three broad domains that the new version of the PMBOK emphasizes,
Yeah.
people, process, business environment. So obviously we're going to start
Mhm.
business environment. The next ones really talk a lot about, the people. How do we start the project? Planning is a little bit more around the process, leading the project again, getting into people, supporting team performance. So all these different sections are going to be supporting those three domains.
Right.
And that is critical to prepare you for taking the exam successfully.
Understood. All right. So quick insight on the training schedules. Let me just show you how this works. And also the fee that you see here is applicable to people in India. If you're living abroad, anywhere outside India, you can check out this link. I've sent it on the chat. And you'll be able to check the course fee and also the training links along with timing. So these are weekend cohorts. Here you go, 25th Jan to 22nd Feb, 1 month long cohorts, right? And some of them are for the weekdays as well. So you can see that the timings on for the weekday cohorts are slightly different from what you see on the weekends. It's pretty straightforward. All you have to do is to give a yes on the poll, and then someone will contact you, explain you the benefits of the PMP certification, explain you how exactly the cohort is going to go about, and then you can just enroll straight away. But of course, I recommend you to talk to a learning advisor because there might be discounts that are running, and you can make the best use of these discounts before you enroll. I suggest you do that rather than enrolling directly on the website. But of course, if you really want to be part of the upcoming cohort, I mean, and if you are willing to enroll immediately, you can do that. But I suggest you talk to a learning advisor first. Okay, let me just take a couple of more questions. Okay, so this is a strange question. How about a company that I worked for before no longer exists and the owner passed away? If they do an audit, what can we do? Should you write it in advance to the PMI during application? How about if I was the owner of the company in another country before moving to the US? Can I show it as an experience since the company no longer exists? Okay, so very
Great questions, kind of
trick
corner
question.
cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit about that. Yeah, you're right. That absolutely is going to happen. Lots of times, we worked in a company a few years ago, and those people have moved to other organizations. So, who do you reach out to for confirmation? So my guidance would be, yeah, do the best you can, write it all up the way it is. If that does happen, talk to the PMI. I mean, they have folks there. If you want to get some guidance before you submit your application, they are very available. I've never once had a time where I think the phone is rung more than twice before someone has picked up there. So
Wow.
they're generally very
Flash response.
responsive. Yeah, yeah. So just ask the PMI their guidance, their advice on that.
Right, right. And this is across the world. I mean, it's not just limited to,
That's right.
right. Got it, got it, got it. Okay, another one. Hi, Brian. Do you recommend to take the exam online? I heard some friends said that most of the times the proctor can't initiate the exam or accuse others unfairly on cheating. What do you recommend? Well,
I've not heard about accusing others unfairly cheating, things like
same.
that. I guess that's a really good question. My experience, at least from the PMI exams, I think the ACP I did online, has been going to one of their uh, exam centers, and that's been great for me because it allows me to kind of go in, clear the decks. There's no distractions. I'm heads down focused. So that worked great for me. That might not always be an available option for folks, though. So if that's something that's hard for you to get to one of those destinations, maybe you got other commitments that make that difficult to be away. I can appreciate that. If you are getting some of that feedback from a proctor, can initiate an exam, I'm frankly very surprised. Initiating exams
Yeah,
generally a very straightforward activity. I've done it many times myself. I can't imagine any time I would accuse someone of cheating. But anyways, I'm sorry you had those experiences. I might go back to the organization that you paid the money to take the exam and just say, hey, I didn't have a great experience, and see if you can get some help from them. But yeah, that shouldn't be your experience. Generally, it runs really smoothly.
got it. Um, okay, a question from Melvin on YouTube. What's the best PMP tool for beginners? And I think we'll close with this. We've also got enough interests for the course. So yeah, what's the best PMP tool that someone can use?
Yeah, that is it's an interesting question. First off, I think going to a credible, certified organization like a Simplilearn that has
Mhm.
been doing this for, gosh, I mean, Aparna, I know I've been working 10 years with them. Maybe they've got 15 years of doing this. So lots and lots of experience. They've trained thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands. So those are good places to start for sure. Now, that said, there are really, really good, tools out there. I saw someone ask about, mind maps and
Yeah. Yeah.
flashcards. Yes, they're all out there. So yeah, explore a little bit, do some Google searches. Hey, use now the PMI even has its own version of
Mm.
ChatGPT. So
Oh,
take a look at that and see what you can leverage to help you.
understood. We have another question, but before that, I'm just going to quickly launch the rating poll so people can let us know what their experience has been in the webinar. Let's see, let's see. Let me take one more question here.
And I'll probably have to wrap up after this one, Aparna.
Yeah, done, done, done. Just the last one. I'm just trying to see if we've got, a new question. Most of them seem repetitive. Uh, Okay, what are the key differences between taking the PMP exam online versus in a classroom settings? I think we answered that already. Uh, yeah, okay, I'll just take this. This is nice to know that we don't have to have the role as a project manager to qualify and also qualify the 35 PDUs needed to take the exam. as long as we have some project management work in whatever role we have. Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to exactly have the designation, but you should be able to display that. Correct. All right. Okay, I think the others are just repetitive. I think anyway, great to have you, Brian, again.
Yeah, great
Um,
session. So many good questions. Thank you,
yeah,
Aparna, for your
so many good questions.
facilitation.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. It was wonderful hosting you. Any last thoughts for people writing the exams? I'm sure they're nervous and would love to hear what you have to say.
I think, just feel confident in yourself. I mean, at the end of
Yeah,
the day, you're doing something that is helping your career, helping yourself develop. Those are all the signals you look for, and you should feel, confident that, yeah, I can do this. And if don't get discouraged. Look, at the end of the day, we're all going to have some modest setbacks at times, and actually a really important skill to develop is the resilience to get through those. So be patient with yourself, give yourself the time you need. You can do this. Believe me, I've seen so many people be successful at this. So I'm confident anyone on this call is going to, with the right application, can successfully pass this exam.
got it. Great. Thanks so
All
much,
right,
Brian. It
Jay.
was
Yep. So nice to
thank
chat
you.
and connect. All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Good luck.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
yeah, bye-bye. And the others who are here, thank you so much for rating us. Bishwanath, your question on how you can renew. Brian did answer that. You could take a look. You could volunteer. You could write blogs. You could contribute to the PMI community to get your 35 PDUs to renew. Okay. So before we end, let me also launch another poll for getting your webinar certificate. So there's a quick poll that I've launched on Zoom. If you're watching us on Zoom, please make sure you enter your full name properly in the next 5 minutes, right? So I'm going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes. So make sure you are entering your full name there. So we don't want to be receiving emails. And of course, it's actually waste of time for you to email us and then get the certificate manually. It's easier if you just enter it here. You don't have to request us. Just make sure your full name is entered correctly. You're not entering your email. You're not entering your email. You're not entering your device name. Make sure only your full name is there, just as you want it to appear on your certificate. Remember, you could use this certificate and share it on social media, tag Brian, and also let him know you attended the session. Let him know your thoughts on what you thought of what he said. It's kind of exciting and also interesting to see what the other learners did, right? Okay, so while you guys give us your names, let me just help you understand one more thing. Now, we've got a bunch of webinars coming up, which is why I said you could be a part of the WhatsApp community. But let's say you want to register for an upcoming webinar and you want to know what we're going to do next, not necessarily in the PMP domain, but any domains. We kind of are starting to take in registrations for the upcoming webinar during the previous ones. So I'm just giving you the link to another webinar that's coming up, which is on how you can crack product manager interviews. Okay. So you can register there. I've shared this link on the chat box. You can register there and you could join this session day after tomorrow, 23rd, same time. Okay. So we've got another interesting speaker lined up. So maybe you could just join us for this particular webinar on how you can crack product manager interviews. So I've sent the link on the chat, and this is after you've entered your full name for the webinar certificate. Okay, so please make sure you register in case you are interested. Okay, but otherwise, just keep following us on LinkedIn, on our WhatsApp community, just for updates. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, let's see. We've got just a few more people who need to enter their names. Yeah. Okay, great, great, great. So I've shared the link to the next webinar in case you wanting to take a look at whatever is coming up. Please also follow us on, not follow us, but also be a part of our WhatsApp community. I'm just sharing the link here once again. Remember, you will receive the link to any further webinars that we host on this particular community. Okay. Vishwanath, it's there on the video description. So in case you are watching us on YouTube, you could go to any video and you will find the link to the WhatsApp community there. Okay? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Right. Okay, then we'll see you in another session. It was great hosting you. It was amazing seeing the enthusiasm that we had. And remember, whoever has entered their names, like I said, I'm just ending the poll here. Yes, so you will receive your certificate in the next 24 hours. And remember to follow us on our channels.